Injury attorneys Hogan Smith Law signed 13,000 new clients this year. 13,000. How do they do it? They are not billboard attorneys. They have zero billboards, and yet they've signed up more new clients this year than, well, definitely top 10 in the nation right now. Zero billboards, 13,000 clients. How do they do it? All 100% digital advertising. That's websites, my websites, plus Google ads and a lot of social media ads. So maybe 5% of their cases are referred to them, to be honest. So 95% digital, 13,000 cases. So how did we do it? I will tell you exactly how. First, if you're watching this video and you're thinking about hiring me to build your website, don't worry. I have 6,000 clients, and the vast majority of them are not $100 million law firms. I am very affordable, and I can grow almost any business. And I can show you examples of where I've done that on a very small budget. Most of my clients are not attorneys either. In fact, most of my clients are either contractors, they're professionals other than lawyers, or they offer professional services, or they're churches. I do a lot of church websites. So don't watch this video and hear about this guy spending millions of dollars and think that your small business can't afford to hire me. You can. I am not expensive, and no business is too small to hire me. All I ask is this: that you want to grow your business. If you have all the business you need and you don't want any more clients and search ranking doesn't matter to you, then hire somebody else. I build beautiful websites, but I'm not a graphic artist. I build websites for one reason: to grow businesses. So if you want to grow, and even though you're very small, you don't have a big budget, let me help you. Don't be like thinking this story tells you that you cannot afford me. But this is a really big company. So how did I get 13,000 new clients this year for injury attorneys, Hogan Smith Law, by using entirely websites, digital marketing? Well, I almost didn't. Truth is, I didn't want to help Hogan Smith at first because I thought it was going to be a waste of Brian Hogan's money. So let me explain. The founder of Hogan Smith Law is Brian Hogan, and Brian is he's definitely the most outgoing human being that I have ever met. If you live within miles of him, you already know him. Brian has always stayed busy handling personal injury cases for literally his own personal network of friends and acquaintances. He has never had to advertise. And I'm not exaggerating. Brian knows thousands of people, all of whom think that Brian is their best friend. And before I met him, he was literally doing millions of dollars in cases with just his personal network. And why is that bad? Well, let me explain. There are 5 types of leads, okay? And I'm going to give them to you in the order of the easiest to sell to, all the way to the hardest to close, okay? The easiest people to sell are your past customers. Whether you call somebody you've already sold before or they call you back. Either way, selling to people who already trust you, they already know you, they already know what you're doing. That's the easiest sale in the world. Anyone can close a repeat customer. You could say, oh, I'm terrible at sales. You're not that bad at sales to where you couldn't sell to someone you've already sold to before. That's an easy sale to make. Almost as easy, and maybe even easier, is to sell a personal friend. If your buddy needs what you're selling, how hard would that be for you to sell it to them? I mean, that's easy. And that's the only kind of selling that Brian has ever had to do. If I personally got hurt in a car accident, how could I go to any other attorney besides Brian, since he's my buddy, he's my friend? Never mind that, truly there's probably 10,000 people in the world who also think, Brian is their best friend. I feel like everybody does, like Brian is my friend. So I would feel like I was betraying him if I didn't hire Brian to be my attorney. And that's the kind of sales he's done. I'm not saying he's not good at sales. He's just never had to be that good at handling leads. Now, The third easiest people to sell are people who are referred to you, referrals. And some people say, "Oh, um, my business is 100% referral," and they act like they're bragging when they say that. And to me, it's a red flag, because it just means either you're really bad at advertising, or if you get good at advertising, you're going to be really bad at handling leads. So, but referrals are easy to close. You should probably be able to sell 70% probably of the people who are referred to you. And and here with referrals, this is where Brian's partner comes in. Remember, it's Hogan Smith Law. Well, Brian's partner at Hogan Smith Law is Dan Smith. And Dan Smith is the best trial lawyer in Florida. I'm not exaggerating. It's not like, Dan's obviously a friend of mine, but it's not even disputed. Like, I'm not saying he's the best paid attorney in Florida. He's surely not. He's not the biggest attorney in Florida. But if, let's say, an injury case has to go to trial, something like 90% of injury cases are settled before they go to a jury trial. But if the insurance company refuses to settle, and a jury has to be impaneled, and they're actually going to do a court case, an actual trial, a lot of the big billboard firms will call Dan Smith in to handle the actual trial for a percentage of whatever he's able to recover. And so when you see a lot of these billboards that say, "Oh, we won $2 million for our client," or whatever, it's really, yes, they were the law firm behind it, but it's often Dan Smith who actually was the lead attorney during the actual trial. So what's my point? Well, up until they started working with me, every single case that Hogan Smith Law ever handled came to them either as a friend of Brian, meaning like easy to close, right? Or as a case that was referred to them because the lead attorney in the case thought they would be able to settle the case, realized, "Oh no, this is going to trial. I hate trying cases. Let's call Dan." So it's a referral. And so, and I'm telling you, if you ask 10 injury attorneys and lawyer in Florida, okay, who would you go to if you have a really difficult case to try? They will tell you Dan Smith. So in other words, I knew that Brian and Dan had never signed up difficult leads before. So creating an inbound campaign for them using like Google ads or Meta ads, that'd be a total waste of time. I could get them leads, but they hadn't dealt with that type of client before, and I knew they wouldn't be able to sign them up as clients. So initially I said no. And I remember the day I was out running with Brian, and he says, "Hey, do Google ads for me." I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And he was like, "Okay, when are you going to start?" And I'm like, "No, Brian, I don't want to do it. It'd be a waste." I wanted nothing to do with it because legal advertising can cost a fortune, and I didn't want to waste Brian's money. I am one of those 10,000 people who think that I'm a close friend of Brian Hogan, and I would feel bad personally if I just wasted his money to generate a bunch of leads and he couldn't turn them into clients. So, and why would it be a waste of money? Let's recap. The easiest lead to sell is a past customer. Next is selling a friend. Maybe they're tied, I don't know. Third easiest is a referral. That's the kind Dan Smith gets all the time. Much more difficult, but still, you could probably close 30% of these if you do it right, is an inbound lead. And that's the kind of lead a digital marketing campaign creates. You run an ad, somebody does a Google search, they see your Google ad there, they click on it, and then they submit a form on your website. And rarely do they call you, by the way. They don't usually pick up the phone. You can do click to call all day long. They're usually going to submit a form. 95% of the time they submit that form. And by the way, the hardest type of lead, because there's 5, the 5th one is outbound cold calling leads. An outbound lead is barely a lead at all. At best, they're just sort of interested. The best closers, and they better be good, might close 15% of outbound cold call leads. And I do a lot of outbound. I can do some for your company, but you've got to be an exceptional closer to make it work. And never mind outbound calls for Hogan Smith. They're injury attorneys. They help consumers, and you cannot legally cold call consumers. So it's not an option for them anyway. But if it was, it wouldn't work because, again, they hadn't dealt with difficulties before. And but for a company that has reached $10 million with only friends and referrals, inbound leads, they were going to be difficult enough. And so an inbound leads is what a digital marketing campaign creates. So the challenge with inbound is this: if you don't call an inbound lead, like, they go to your website, they submit the form. If you don't call them before the prospect leaves your website, they will go straight back to the Google search page and submit a lead form to the next website they see. And those people will call them. And so when you try to call them 5 minutes later, they're already on the phone with a competitor, signing up with them. You might have 5 seconds, not 5 minutes, to respond to an inbound lead, or it's totally wasted. You'll never even get them to pick up the phone. Now, as a friend of Brian, if I call him because I've had an accident and he doesn't call me back for a few minutes, I'm obviously going to be patient, right? If I was an attorney and I knew that, oh golly, this insurance company's not going to settle this case, I'm going to have to go to trial. Well, Dan Smith might be in the middle of a trial himself. So if I call him and I leave a message, I'll be patient. I'll wait for him to call me back. I don't expect him to call back in 5 minutes. But an inbound lead that doesn't know Brian, not a friend of his, and they've never heard of Dan Smith, the famous trial lawyer, well, you don't have 5 minutes. You might not have 10 seconds. You literally have to respond to the lead form before they leave your website. Or else, when you do try to reach them from the lead form, they won't pick up because they're already on the phone with your competitor who will take them out of the market. So I knew that they didn't have speed to lead. I knew they didn't have that. They'd never been used to needing it. And so I didn't want to waste their money with a big digital marketing campaign. And I would say the same to you. If you don't have someone at your company whose only job is to respond instantly, not fast, instantly to inbound leads, then don't waste your money on digital marketing, because it will generate leads and then you'll come to me and say, well, okay, I can never get these leads on the phone. Of course you can't. They've already bought. It was 5 minutes ago that they submitted that form. So that's why I told Brian that I didn't want to advertise for him online. A website is fine, and I had built him a website already. In fact, I think I built him 4 or 5 websites, but I didn't want to do Google ads. I didn't want him to spend real money on Meta, because the leads that we create for him, I thought, would be wasted. But if you know Brian Hogan, you know he does not take no for an answer. And so I finally agreed to advertise for him, but on one condition, and that is that he let my team create their entire intake process and train their intake people. That means scripts that we wrote, a lead flow, speed to lead, everything. I didn't want to generate leads for him, but not actual rep docs. So I took care of all of it. So here is where Brian's deal is a little different than I might be able to work out for you. I can build a very inexpensive website that ranks really well. I can tell you that nobody does geo-targeting like us. So getting that local discoverability, it's our superpower. I can do that for you very affordably. I can do a lot of really sophisticated spam blocking for Google ad campaigns. I can optimize your Google Maps. All of that won't cost you a lot. But for me to do what I did next for Hogan Smith Law, you'll probably already need to be a pretty big company. And they were doing $10 or $12 million a year. But now they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, this is what I did. I met every morning from the very beginning. I met every single morning with the Hogan Smith Law team. That is the leaders there, 2 of the attorneys, their entire intake team, anyone who was involved in signing up clients. We met every single morning at 9 o'clock. We still do. And I built them out a scoreboard to track their lead flow all the way through to the sign up. And that was before we ran the first ad. And every morning to this day, we talk through our choke points, we watch their cost per lead by source, we fix any issues that might be stopping us from signing up clients. We want to remove all friction from that process. And we scaled up slowly at first. Right at first, which was maybe last May, we were doing 20 clients a week. And now, after a year, on a typical day, we sign up 90 new clients. 90 on average, roughly 600 clients a week. And between then and now, we had to figure out together, not just me, but like we all together had to figure out dozens of choke points. We had marketing messages that weren't getting people to respond. We had an intake team that wanted to take turns on the leads, and that was creating this response time lag. We had taglines that didn't work. We had crazy spam attacks we had to fight off. We tried to get people to call us instead of filling out the form, which was a total dead end. I mean, we wasted so much time trying to figure out how to get people on the phone instead of having to go through the form. We still haven't figured that out. People like to fill out the form. We got a really nice form. It really works well. It's very simple, but they'd much rather fill out a form than to call somebody, especially if it's something personal they want to have to talk about. They just want it, the form feels more anonymous. Anyway, we redesigned their classic 4-call close to a simple 1-call close. It was their idea, actually, not mine. We optimized everything over and over and over. We have never ended all of this, what we call A/B testing, to see which marketing message is better, this one or that one. How many tiles should the website have? Should it be long or short or very short or just a single page? We walked through all of it. Now, this is what ultimately worked. Simple and Hogan Smith Law are really a team. There is no sense in the meetings that it's them and us, like that we're like hired guns, that we're there to try to sell them on something. We are a part of their team. They're part of our team. We work together to solve problems. And right now, if you call Hogan Smith Law, let's say it's 2 a.m. and it's a holiday, a live human being will answer their phone and they will sign you up as a client using a script that I wrote, which of course they approved, of course. But we created an entire sales funnel, not just their lead flow. On average, from the time a prospective client lands on their website until they sign a rep doc, it is on average 32 minutes. How do I know? Because we track everything. Now, let me recap. Number one, if you're a small business and you want to get bigger, I can help you. If you don't want to grow your company, you got the wrong guy. But if you are interested, you're small, but you want to get a little bit bigger or a lot bigger, I'd love to help you. Digital marketing may well be the way to help you. Even if you're not a huge law firm, you don't even have to be a law firm. No business is too small to work with me. Number two, if you're serious about generating new business from your website, you need to be prepared to respond instantly to inquiries. These are not like referrals or friends or past customers. Fast isn't fast enough for an inbound lead. One of the most successful online marketers in the world is Rocket Mortgage. If you go to their website, submit your information to their website, do you know your phone will ring before you can get your hand off the mouse? Like, you click, the phone rings. Their response time is legendary. Speed to lead is everything on inbound. So get your process on responding to leads down pat first before you spend $1 on Google advertising. Now, third thing, if you're a mid-sized or larger business that has never really generated inbound leads, or more difficult, outbound cold call leads, those are the hardest to close, let me build you out a sales process to go with a lead funnel that I can build for you. So let me take it more than just, hey, we need leads. No, you probably need sales is what you need. And so let's start with the advertising, generate the leads, take the leads and handle them correctly all the way through to signing them up. So by the way, if cold calling is so difficult, in other words, if cold call leads are so hard to close, then why does anybody bother cold calling? Well, if you sell to businesses, if you're a B2B company, not a law firm, but if you sell to other businesses, then you have no choice. You will die waiting for businesses to do a Google search that leads them to you. And they're extremely difficult to advertise to. It's hard to target to them. So if you're trying to reach business owners or corporate decision makers, you've got to cold call them to generate interest. You've got to break through and interrupt what are their existing relationships. Now, I can help you with that too. I'll write the scripts, provide the callers, get you the leads. But again, you might need my help on the sales side too, so you don't just waste the leads that we generate. I have had a real client ask me to do cold calls before, and we got a team together. We created literally hundreds of leads, only to find out they didn't end up calling a single lead. 100% wasted effort. Let's not do that. Finally, Let's say you are an attorney and you want me to help grow your practice. I may or may not be able to help you. If you're in Florida, I gotta say, definitely not. Remember, I'm one of those 10,000 people who think that Brian Hogan, that attorney, is my best friend. So how could I possibly betray him and help his competitor? So sorry. If you think I can help your business, fill out the link below. Let me have a conversation with you. Listen, if I can help you, I'll be the first to tell you. If I can help you, I think you'll be really glad you filled out that form. Thanks so much.